Tara Flynn is an actress, a comedian and a writer from Dublin. She is a social media queen, often speaking out about human rights issues and facing her fair share of backlash for doing so. One of the issues she's passionate about is the campaign to repeal the 8th Amendment. I met her in a cafe to discuss abortion, feminism and dealing with trolls. So tell me about how you got involved in the Repeal the 8th movement.
That was sort of it's a long and ongoing thing because basically I've always been pro-choice, and I was living in Britain, and when I came back in 2011 there was suddenly a bit of talk that there hadn't been before I left about repeal, and I was very keen to help push that forward in any way I could. So I started, MCing for fundraisers or taking part in that sort of way. Though I was still quite shy about it because I did have my own story to tell. And it took another few years. It took really the marriage equality referendum for me to start telling my own story, because I saw so many of my friends telling their truths, living their truths and telling their stories. Even in the face of people who might say disapproving things, but seeing that there was a lot of support as well, that it was something they were willing to do either way. And then I felt like I was a bit of a fraud. Any little bit of work I did on the marriage equality campaign, I felt like a fraud for not living my truth. And so eventually, when I was doing Electric Picnic with Amnesty, and they wanted me to MC, to host an event on choice and my body, my rights, and I said, well, I can do that, or I can tell a story, and I can tell my own story if you think that'd be useful in any way. And they did. They thought it was, and it was just time. There was something in the air. I had been in touch with Roisin Ingle from the Irish Times, and on a personal level, we'd become friends, and we discovered we both had a story, and we knew we wanted to do something positive with that, as opposed to collude and lie that we've all been asked to do. So it really became about truth and not being able to tell a lie anymore. And that's sort of how it happened. So although I'm not directly involved with any of the organisations, and I take steps almost not to become directly involved, so that if I need to swear at someone on the internet, I'm not dragging anybody else down with me. I can tell people to F off if I need to, if that's because it is so personal that it's not something you can legislate for. It's not something you can plan how you're going to react. And people have all kinds of opinions on how to handle it, and they just can't know unless they're the targets. You have to let the target of abuse set the parameters.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So, talking about people who might disapprove and telling people to F off, I followed you on Twitter for a long time, and you seem to get an awful lot of trolling.
Yeah, I do, but I mean, many people do. So I'm not unique in any way. I just happen to talk about pretty hot-button topics. I talk about abortion and reproductive rights, and I talk about race because my husband's black. So when you talk about either of those two things, it's like a double whammy. I talk about both, but they affect me and my family directly. So it's something I'm never gonna not talk about. What I have done recently, though, is I've stepped back talking about almost anything else political, because it just, I get asked to, because people know that I'm not afraid to speak up. But it just, for me, it dilutes the message, the main messages, which are personal for me. So I've just decided now not to talk about, and I was starting to get messages about Irish water and stuff, and I was going, look, I just don't know anything about that stuff. I know my own personal feelings on it, but I don't want to share them. And a lot of people making assumptions about my politics that they simply can never, ever guess, because I don't talk about them. But I will talk about stuff where it's about human rights or where it directly affects my family. So those two topics do bring the trolls around. But you know what? Everything brings the trolls around. Being on social media brings the trolls around. And I don't really mind outright trolls. That might sound like a weird thing to say, but they're so off the wall. You can kind of write them off. They're just loopers. Who are bored. It's quite clear what's going on.
Definitely.
It's the more reasonable people who are calling it debate and try to argue their anti-human rights points. They're much scarier, and they're much more demanding on your time, and they insist on things like politeness when they're actually saying quite horrible things about oneself or about other people that and it's like, no, you know what, that's not polite debate, so you can F off. You're one of the people I'd like to F off. So that's kind of the trolling thing.
It's actually such a good point about the reasonable people.
I know. You're talking, but you with all your rights, and it's always someone with all their rights. You with all your rights are trying to police people who don't have them, and tell them why it's okay that they don't. What? That's crazy talk. But it's cloaked in reason, and that's very dangerous.
What helps you to keep speaking out for the rights of others and stuff?
Oh, rage. Just rage. Because I keep going, and I'm sure you know in any times you've spoken out yourself or anything like that, you know that you have to mind yourself. And I keep trying to mind myself. And just keep going, I'm gonna take my private life back, and I'm gonna go into the duvet for a couple of weeks now. And it's like, and then you see something where you have to say something about it, or stand with someone. And like, there's no point saying you're for a certain cause or you're for certain rights and then say nothing when you see something horrible happening. And it might not be comfortable, and it might even make you unpopular. But you have to go, that has to be all right, because it could, I'm sure there are moments where there are certain jobs I've lost. I know I've lost friends talking out about race stuff since Trump got in.
Really?
So they think I'm saying too much, and they don't see why it matters in Ireland, and it's stop rocking the boat, or we should hear certain things out. And it's like, no, there are certain things we don't have to hear out. There are certain things that are just not reasonable points. That's not free speech, and we've all seen recently, with all the Milo stuff, where people's line with free speech is, and if you have a line, then it's not about free speech, and we have to talk about why it was okay with you, when it's racism or transphobia, homophobia, misogyny. Why are those lines that you are willing to cross?
Definitely.
It's not acceptable, I'm afraid. So own it. Own your, you reasonable people. Back to them again, but they really are the worst. Reasonable people are the worst. So I'd much rather be unreasonable. So yeah, I suppose that's where I'm at right now. Is just like, I want sometimes to pull back, but when it is personally motivated, you can't. It's just not possible. All you can do is take breaks and realise that the fight's still going to be there tomorrow. Okay. So have a duvet day.
One of the things, obviously, that we all encounter is the constant having to define feminism and stuff like that all the time. I feel like I'm at the point now where I just don't want to have to define it anymore, because there's so many places where you have to find it. Do you feel the same? Like, how do you respond to somebody who doubts feminism?
I do. Well, I mean, it really is back to everything else we've been talking about. It's about human rights, and it's about equality, and only about equal rights. How people want to define their own feminism is none of my business, and how I define mine is none of anybody else's.
So true.
We can talk about the different waves, we can talk about the different manifestations. At the end of the day, it is only and always about that we all need equal basic human rights. And if anyone's against that, then again, I just go, we really have nothing to talk about. If you're gonna, and then it's on a sliding scale. Is it a little bit okay? Is like the pay gap okay? It's like, no, it's not. So we're looking for equality. It doesn't take away from anyone. In fact, it would add to society. But of course, we're going to find people in positions of power and privilege who feel taken away from a challenge to what they see as their supremacy. It is the right word. Is something that makes them feel threatened, and that's a shame. But the brilliant thing is that when these discussions happen, you find your allies, and the allies are incredible. And all I want in my life is sounders. Like, let's just have more soundness. Sounders are everywhere. And, same as you find inequality everywhere, there are sounders aplenty. So, the good thing about that discussion is finding out where your feminist allies are, of all genders. I mean, and it's that's very interesting to me. But I think constantly having to define it, it's really very simple. And usually you'll find someone who wants to go further than that or complicate it is someone who's trying to silence you a bit.
Definitely.
When they're trying to unpick it, usually they're trying to silence you. For me though, of course it has to be about intersectionality. It has to be. We're all equal.
So I watched Racist B&B. I've watched it a few times now. I can definitely see why it is so huge. It's like, it really took off, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It was funny enough when, papers from outside Ireland were writing about it when it first came out and stuff. It is interesting, partly because it's something being said by an ally, I guess, and allies very often. I mean, I'm very careful about what I say about race because it's not my place.
Yeah.
And yet I do want to step up and be an ally. But I don't want to take someone's space. So I thought the best thing to do was analyse how people are casually racist. Because any casual inequality, again, we're talking about the sliding scale. So it's a little bit of racism. You're still saying the person is other and lesser.
Definitely.
So, and from there you can go anywhere to all kinds of deprivation of rights or segregation or anything. So I just find it all quite dangerous, and I thought that was something to look at that could have a comedic premise, and I could as a white person then say, I've seen this and I've overheard this and I think it's ridiculous. So it pulls in the ridiculousness of it rather than in any. I'm sure there's been criticism from people of colour that, you know, any sort of white knight riding in and going, I'll help solve racism, which is not my intention at all. But by the same token, I think it's important for allies to stand up. You know, like we need on the repeal movement, we need allies of all genders to stand for us. We need, you know, I think it's essential that, you know, white people, my husband, as I mentioned, and he's in the video, making his acting practically his debut. But when you have civil rights battles, you need people who aren't directly affected to also stand up and say, look, this doesn't just affect the people that are being targeted, it affects us all, and we won't stand for it.
Yeah.
So, and to try and do that comedically, because that's my voice, that's my background has been in acting and in comedy, so that was my way. I felt really powerless when he got abuse, and I don't usually see him getting abused because when I'm there, it either doesn't happen, or we'll avoid certain situations, or it's happened and he's been in town, and by the time he's home he just decided not to tell me. So it's very interesting when I saw the direct aftermath and quite how debilitating it is to just, you know, it's so-called just verbal aggression in this particular case. But there are a few things about verbal aggression. Number one, it's diminishing, it's demeaning, and it's silencing, and it takes away from the essence of oneself. And it belittles. And then the other point about it is, especially when it happens on a street and you're on your own, you have no way of knowing if it's a preamble. It's a physical aggression. So you're already being physically aggressed in that your space is challenged. So it's, you know, we can recognise it in all sorts of other spheres too. But in terms of race, I finally got to see, you know, what his face looked like just after it happened. And he tries to downplay it, but I felt so powerless and I wanted to do something. Can we go to the police? And then there's no hate crime legislation here, number one. And number two, we've got to change that one. That's another goal. But number two, he didn't want me to. And I had to take money from him.
Yeah, definitely.
So satirically was the only way to go from there.
I've read your book, Giving Out Yards, and I thought it was brilliant.
Good. It's very angry. It's very angry.
No, it was just the things you spoke out on, they were just so good and everything. Do you think that you were like always going to kind of go down that road of writing, or do you think that it's kind of been brought on by your experiences that you felt the need to?
No plan for that kind of thing, no. It was partly to do with what the publisher wanted, to be very honest with you. But I love a challenge, so they wanted that sort of nice bite-sized chunks, because I could just write essays forever. So it was a real challenge to make things really short and pithy, but closer than, I guess, to sketch comedy in a way. So it's like little tiny mini sketches, all in alphabetical form. So it was a challenge. It was a real challenge, but it was very good to sort of distill down exactly what I thought about a thing and put a satirical spin on it. You know, so that was a good challenge to really clarify for me how I felt about things. And then in some of them, I take two viewpoints. I'll take like opposing viewpoints. And then in some of them, I just go, no, bang.
Yeah.
This is how I really feel. So, and that's very cathartic.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm sure.
My first book was called You're Grand, The Irish Woman's Secret Guide to Life.
Yeah.
And what the premise of that is, it's like a spoof self-help book. It's like The Secret, or it's like, you know, all these life guides. I sort of say, I have it all figured out. So what I was saying was that Irish women have it all figured out. Women living in Ireland and, you know, have it all figured out. Because I was saying that all that we've had to put up with, if we can survive it, anyone can.
Yeah.
So it's still available as an ebook. That's sort of the positive version. So that was book one. And then we decided, myself and the publisher decided that we would sort of go further with the anger that was covering up.
Right.
And so that's where the second book came from. It was like, we sort of dug up the anger and sort of went, this is how you manage that. In the first one, you're grand.
Yeah.
You're grand. Breathe in, breathe out, you're grand. And then for the second one, it was just like, well, how about... So my sort of subtitles for both of them are grand, not grand. So the second one is not grand, rawr. So giving out yards. Yeah, so they're sort of companion pieces in a weird way, although they're not alike in other ways. The antithesis of each other.
Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
No, I found this, it was the series that we're doing is kind of sitting down with someone who inspires you and stuff, and I really appreciate you actually meeting up with me. And
not at
thank
all.
you so much.
God, it's my pleasure. I love it. I love speaking to younger people who are just so exciting to me. I'm blown away by young people in Ireland right now. Absolutely blown away. Speaking in colleges is giving me life.
Really?
Yeah, it's reinvigorating me, and it's giving me hope for the future. And then at college recently, you know, some of the students came up and said, you know, is having these societies, does it make a difference? Is it worth it? And I was going, 100%, because you guys are going to take the batons on when we all get tired of it and can't do it anymore, and hopefully you'll enjoy the future that you're helping to build right now. So you're essential. You're more essential than anyone, you guys. So you're just awesome, and thanks for inspiring me.
Thank you.